Santa Monica today is an economic success story. There are 88 cities in Los Angeles County. We're 19th in population, but we're third highest in assessed property valuation. Our city government has over $1.5 billion in net assets, and that's the second highest per capita in LA County cities, second out of 88 cities. Our diverse economy and our strong balance sheet has earned, as you heard a moment ago, Santa Monica the highest bond rating that a public agency can achieve. And this provides our residents with unmatched quality of services and up-to-date infrastructure. That translates into more library story hours, faster medical response times, expanded playfields, less ocean pollution, and cleaner and greener neighborhoods. But in a changing world, we can't take prosperity for granted. To chart a sustainable future, it's vital to understand why Santa Monica is prosperous today. There's a popular myth that until recently, Santa Monica was a sleepy little beach community. This myth has no basis in fact. The historic record is clear. Back in 1880, Santa Monica had 417 residents. In the next 10 years, the population tripled. In the next 10 years, it doubled. In the 10 years after that, it doubled again. And in the 10 years after that, it doubled yet again. And then, in the next 10 years, it doubled yet again, when our population reached nearly 40,000 by 1930. Population growth slowed during the Depression, but still, over the next 2 decades, the population again doubled. The record clearly demonstrates that Santa Monica was a boom town from its very start. It was slated to be the main port of LA until San Pedro stole that prize. Douglas Aircraft alone employed over 44,000 workers in its Santa Monica factory. And the arrival of the 10 freeway brought even more development. In fact, by the 60s, downtown Santa Monica, Ocean Park neighborhood, and the Pico neighborhood were all seeing the symptoms of urban blight and decline, including obsolete factories, empty storefronts, rising crime, and falling property values. You know, few people realize that Santa Monica's population reached a peak of 88,000 back in 1970. In fact, our population didn't surpass that level again until nearly 40 years later. Instead of doubling every 10 years, as we did for the first half century of our existence, over the last half century, Santa Monica's barely grown 10%. Now, looking back, like many declining American cities in the 60s, Santa Monica pursued what was then erroneously called urban renewal. Historic neighborhoods, many of them occupied by poor and minority residents, were bulldozed. While those policies brought things like the Civic Auditorium, they failed to spark a sustainable revival. So in the 70s, Santa Monica was in economic decline. Well, what turned Santa Monica around? It was an inspired strategic vision. Now, there was no single genius that formulated all the key ideas, but during the early 80s, one of my predecessors as city manager assembled an overall strategy drawing on the work of council members like Nat Travis, who was mayor in the 70s, and in 3 short years that he was on the job, put together the policies that have worked so well since. And his successor brilliantly implemented that, and visionary council members and the next 3 city managers kept the momentum going, and that's what's created the prosperity that we enjoy today. My predecessor's vision was built around 3 primary elements. Welcome to the circus. First element was the outmoded factories on the eastern edge of town were gradually replaced by first-class offices like the Water Garden. Second, the moribund pedestrian mall. in downtown was redesigned as the 3rd Street Promenade, and it sparked a downtown retail revival. And third, Santa Monica was recast from a beach city that drew day visitors and motel guests to a genuine visitor destination, adding customers to the retail, dining, entertainment, and cultural venues in our community. So that's it: office business, retail, sales, and tourism. A relentless focus on those 3 elements has made Santa Monica into an economic powerhouse. Yes, there were other important factors. The city's investment in high-speed fiber helped launch tech businesses that have grown into Silicon Beach. And instead of subsidizing private development, Santa Monica invested all of its redevelopment money into infrastructure and affordable housing. And rent control helped keep Santa Monica more affordable for our local workforce. But the central basis of our economic success was this sustained focus on offices, retail, and tourism. Now, here's the challenge. When it comes to office business, not only is the market rapidly changing, but there simply is no appetite in the community for more office development, given the headaches of West Side traffic. And when it comes to retail sales, not only has regional competition intensified, but retail itself nationally is declining due to changing consumer choices. And when it comes to tourism, while it's still important, fierce regional competition and the rise of home sharing has made it more difficult for us to sustain the growth we've seen in recent years. And let's face it, our community doesn't want to become a giant cruise ship, and discerning visitors are not going to come to a place that's overrun with tourists. So we shouldn't be surprised that the economic vision of the early 80s has reached a point of diminishing returns. 4 decades is a remarkable run for any economic strategy. It's worked so well and for so long that unfortunately we've come to take it for granted. But we can't forget a basic law of economics. Things that can't go on forever, don't. And if we're to protect the vital services we provide every day to Santa Monica's 93,000 residents, we must act. So our mayor and our city council have given city staff the job of partnering with our community to forge a new community vision, led by 2 very talented Santa Monica residents, our Housing and Economic Development Director, Andy Agel, and our new Deputy City Manager, Anuj Gupta. The Economic Sustainability Plan will not be simply an update of the old strategy. We aren't looking for 3 major magic keys to the future. In fact, as the next 2 speakers are going to illuminate, we live in a time when the economy is just too dynamic to base a long-term economic strategy on specific industries. In fact, the Economic Sustainability Plan we're embarking upon will not be focused as much on what we do as how we do it here in Santa Monica. And so first we have to acknowledge that there's no such thing as a strictly Santa Monica economy. We're only 8.3 square miles out of the 4,000 miles just here in LA County, and surrounded by Los Angeles on 3 sides. Our job is not to create an economic island. Our job is to find our place in the larger economy of Southern California and the world beyond. Now, it's too soon to paint a picture of what the Economic Sustainability Plan will contain, but today I want to sketch out for you briefly how we plan to co-create with you this plan, drawing on the best ideas in our community and beyond. Now, the Santa Monica Chamber of Commerce is an obvious collaborator, and today marks the first step in introducing this plan and this effort to the community. But we're going to be reaching out to civic groups, to labor, to neighborhood associations, to public and private schools, as well as colleges, think tanks, and foundations. And we recognize that planning for the future may seem to compete for attention with more urgent priorities. So we recognize we can't duck immediate issues like homelessness and housing affordability. And we can't neglect genuine resident concerns about crime and traffic and development. But like the visionaries of 40 years ago, we have the responsibility to look beyond the crises of today to forge a better tomorrow. So let's focus on two important upcoming dates. 2019, amazingly enough, will mark 250 years since an expedition of Spaniards discovered a nearby spring, and they dubbed it Santa Monica because it reminded them of St. Monica's tears. And another important date looms just a decade ahead. 2028 will be the year that LA will host the Olympics, including a major beach volleyball venue right here in our community. And 10 years may seem like a long time, but it will arrive before we know it. So this year, 2018, we'll enlist partners, we'll do the economic research and the analysis, and we'll convene with you lively dialogue about our shared economic future. And then in 2019, together we will formulate a powerful economic sustainability plan marking our 250th anniversary as a community and looking ahead to where we want to be 10 years from now when we welcome the world to Santa Monica. President Kennedy used to quote what he called an old Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. Well, we live in interesting times. Unfortunately, many previous generations didn't think much about the future because they were too busy building up a boomtown. And some previous generations were too short-sighted, and they took shortcuts that ultimately fell short of sustaining their economy. The question for us today, will our generation be visionary enough to create a brighter future? Can we ensure that the Santa Monica we love, is enhanced in the decades ahead? We have to practice our core values. We have to preserve our unique community identity. And we have to roll up our sleeves, Santa Monica, and do the planning and the hard work to implement so that what lies ahead ensures that we leave our city not only more equitable, more sustainable, but more prosperous than we found it. Thank you so much.